for trusting me to go there, and it is. It's like drinking from a fire hose for that first 40 days, which actually spreads over about 3 months. But about the time you feel like you're sort of getting the handle of it, it's done and over with. But no, I was blessed with. We have a really good delegation with Senator Bearden, David Huddleston, Tyler Paul Smith, Lynn, a lot of folks that were already friends of mine and helped me along the way, gave me some guidance, helped me understand the processes and some of the procedures, and then just the whole membership there is very friendly, very much willing to help. So. I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity and honored to do so.
Well, let me give you a more formal introduction. Member of Georgia House, District 71, which is basically East Carroll for the most part, correct?
Yes, sir, covers Carrollton, Villa Rica, and Temple.
Let's see. You earned a bachelor's degree in marketing from the University of West Georgia. Career experience includes serving as the Vice President of Business Operations for NG Turf. Previously served as president of the board of directors for the Georgia Crop Improvement Association. Serve on 3 committees currently: Agricultural and Consumer Affairs, Interstate Cooperation, Natural Resources, and Environment. Married to Natalie, you got 2 beautiful kids, right?
Absolutely. They'll be White will be 12 next month, and Nellie is 8. Me and Natalie just celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary. So.
Well, I've got to ask you this. Your name really is Justin, so how'd you come about Jutt? Jutt's very unusual.
Great question. My brother Matt Howard, who's been with the Carrollton Police Department for about 25 years now, he's 2 years older than me. So when I was born and came home, he said Jutt, and he sort of named me, and I've never known anything since. So that's sort of what he was able to say at the time, and it sort of stuck. So,
but
yeah,
Jutt
is short
brother
for Justin.
Yeah, I would hate for my sister to have named me. All right, well, let's kind of jump in. There's a whole lot of topics, and obviously, but one more observation. I was seeing the other day about how many federal laws there are. Now that you've been there one session, are there too many laws in the state of Georgia? Because we are often passing laws to clarify previous laws, and it just seems like it's endless.
It is, and it's overwhelming, especially for my first time there to start to understand the process, but then try to keep up with everything that's coming and going. And I don't think you could read 24 hours a day and you still couldn't read everything that's coming across. But I think most things that are done a lot of times are just to update current laws or to amend things that are already on the books that may need updating or need some things added to them.
If you Google how many state laws are there in Georgia, Google comes back and says, I don't know. I mean, they say basically it's impossible to tell. Okay, well, let's jump in. The governor obviously was real big on tort reform. So the big question that I think individuals want to know is, are our insurance rates going to go down?
Well, that is a good question, and we have a study committee that's starting this summer that the speaker has initiated, and they will be looking at the insurance industry and how they set rates. And no doubt, I think tort reform is something that Georgia has long needed, from the sense of lawsuit abuse and some frivolous lawsuits and things of premise liability where, say, a CVS or a Kroger might have someone, 2 gangs that have a drug deal gone bad at 3 a.m. in a parking lot, and that results in a $45-50 million verdict against the property owner. And so some of those things really needed to be addressed, but I think overall the bill got a lot of really good things done, but still maintained access for people to still be able to go to the courts and seek litigation if they've been harmed. And I think that was the key process there, was to be able to maintain that constitutional right, but then at the same time bring a little bit more fairness and transparency there and get some foreign countries and third-party financiers into litigation claims and some of that cleaned up that desperately needed done.
Well, insurance costs for individuals and businesses, can be pretty hefty at times. So.
It has, and we're a small family business. We're in the sod and turf industry around the state. We run our own trucks up and down the road every day. And I'll just say my personal experience in 2023, we had 4 accidents, all less than 5 miles an hour. They were basically fender benders. Of the total 4 claims, you added up all the physical damage, there was $25,000 total on all 4 accidents. However, the medical claims exceeded $400,000 on those 4 claims. So you can see where sometimes, some of the medical costs associated with some of the minor cases were becoming more and more of a problem, and people see that at home. It's not just small businesses, it's families that are trying to get 16 and 17-year-old kids that are on the road, and where they can help with the family and they can go get a job and help support the family, and it's just very, very expensive. So I hope that we see at least a steadiness of the market. I think you're starting to see that in Florida now, a few years after they've gotten theirs done, and things are adjusted. Insurance companies still have a lot of high claims associated with natural disasters that may be slowing some of that up, but I think over time we will see that these were good changes that will help bring in higher competition and help steady the market.
Switching gears, it's becoming kind of my favorite topic, data centers, mainly because you hear almost horror stories about how much energy we're going to need in the state of Georgia, and we're not really prepared for it. What's your intel? What's your insight into? And the data centers seem to be appearing everywhere around Metro, but they haven't really got into Carroll and Harrelson yet.
Sure.
So what do you understand to be the energy needs, and what needs to be done to prepare for expansion of data centers?
Sure. So I think data centers are a thing of the future with IT and AI and everything that we have coming forward. And Georgia is set up and poised to can be a hub of some of that technology and really good jobs and good infrastructure. It's good for the local tax base, but at the same time we do have some concerns there with natural resources, with water, with energy consumption. So I have spent a lot of time looking at this, having some conversations with our energy producers, and my main goal is to ensure that while these large users are great for our communities, at the same time they don't impact the rates of the common day citizen, and that the citizen's not bearing a rate increase to offset that. So the Georgia Power, the EMCs are looking at that. They're aware of that. They're looking at making sure that all the infrastructure cost and everything that goes into to help get these centers online, or that burden is not passed along to the regular consumer. That's taken up by these companies.
Have you heard much of anything about these small modular reactors?
So a lot of conversation there, and water as one of the maybe easiest ways to cool these facilities, but then a lot of facilities now are still just going to more energy and air cooling. But then again, you've got a limited amount of that. So SMR, small modular reactors, are being studied very closely. I think y'all have talked a lot about it on your show in previous episodes, and I think it is something that will very much not only help data centers, but be able to help local communities and places that are, say, off the grid, be more available for their communities.
Our guest this morning is State Representative Jutt Howard, House District 71. We'll be back with more after this.
The World Language Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined, curriculum-based track to acquire essential knowledge and skills for success in biliteracy fields of study. The successful completion of this journey provides colleges with a method to recognize a rigorous foreign language immersion experience for all students at Oak Mountain Academy. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Consider the Mobius strip. Take a strip of paper, twist it, connect the ends. This connection forms a continuous loop. Seamless, infinite. That's how your healthcare should be too. At Tanner Health, the Mobius is our symbol and our promise, representing our continuum of care and our commitment that the services you need will be here for you always. We're not just changing healthcare, we're redefining it. See more at tanner.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Gredick, your host, and we've got Jutt Howard in the studio, state rep for House District 71. While Harrison County is not in your district, there's a lot of talk and a lot of news going on about how assessments came out. They double triple, even more so. And House Bill 581, all this is very confusing, it seems like, allowed the school boards opted out, but the municipalities and the county commission, Harris County, opted in. So that tax rate stays the same other than inflation for 2025. But for the school board taxes, which is the bulk of it, they go up. But now I understand House Bill 481, every year, everybody's got to decide whether or not we opt in or opt out.
Yeah, so House Bill 581 was the case there, and that bill was passed before I got there in session. But basically, what that did was set up a time that counties, school boards could opt in or opt out of the ability to cap assessments or level assessments based on inflation. The opt-in, opt-out version was put in there basically because the bill would have been dead without that. So sort of ahead of my time. But since then, a lot of communities around the state were studying it. They really didn't know how much it would impact them. So in a air of caution, they sort of opted out. So we saw that this year. We had a lot of conversations, came back up with a bill this year that sort of extends their ability to say, okay, you've opted out, but you can monitor this, and then on a yearly basis, you can decide to opt in or opt out. Once you're in, you're sort of in. You can stay in. You don't. But if you've opted out already, you can revisit that next year and choose to opt in. So sort of an extended the time period for communities and areas to look at this, continue to study it, and see what's best for the.
So this will be a topic every year going forward, whether you opt in or opt out. But then the legislation ends in 5 years, correct?
Right. So it had a sunset on it. So I think it's a 5-year period to look at it and see how it continues to need to be addressed. But I think the key point here was what the legislator was trying to do was really to help the taxpayer, and it was really about a tax cut to the property owners and taxpayers of our state, and that was its intent, and that continues to be our focus, is to help them in every way we can.
So the budget this year is $37.7 billion, and we have I believe 11.1 people in Georgia. So are you satisfied with the size of the budget and how it came about?
Well, it is, and that's a big number to wrap your head around. It's a lot going on under the Gold Dome that first 2 weeks and looking at the budget and where we're spending our money. But the overall philosophy that I can say that our leadership has really made me aware of is that we believe, and our party believes, that we don't know how to spend your money as well as you do. So we want to provide, the central government services that we need to, but put as much money back in the taxpayers' hands. And we were able to do that again by continuing to lower the income tax rate, as well as give a rebate back to every Georgia family.
So how many more years until we have zero income tax?
Well, good question, and I think there's ways to get there. Some of our fellow states have looked at that and ways to get there. We currently provide a lot of tax exemptions, and I think to really get to zero, we're going to have to look at where we're already exempting some taxes in other industries, but more importantly, maybe start including some taxes on services, because you still have essential services. We need to fund our schools. We need to fund education. We need to fund a lot of essential things that government does have a necessity to do. And as Georgia's growing, that budget continues to grow. But our main objective is to be as good as stewards we can with that, and put as much as we can back into the taxpayers' hands, where we believe they know how to spend their money better than we do.
So half the budget is for education, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so K through 12 was fully funded, right?
Correct.
But we've got also, tell us about your observation on school safety. I understand there was more grants for SROs.
Right. So going back a few years, the previous budgets did start allocating some money to school safety so they could get a safety grant that would be spent on not only school resource officers, but it could be spent on automatic door locking mechanisms, a lot of security features that are being put into schools. So we were honored to be able to increase that again this year and fully fund that and add a little bit of money to it. And a lot of the SROs are not only funded by state dollars. They're a partnership with our local communities, whether that be the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, City of Illirica Temple, City of Whitesburg. A lot of our local communities have stepped up to help offset, and they usually share the cost of those SROs. So without our local governments and local spending, then we couldn't get that done. But I think school safety is, my biggest priority. One of the reasons that I got into office is I've got 2 young children, and looking at the environment they live in, the tragedy we had at Appalachia School, so I was very happy to see what we got done this year with not only additional funding for school safety, but some measures put in place through the school safety bill that will help identify as kids transfer schools. It's a way to help their records go along with them, help the new administration, counselors, and teachers see the needs that they need to address and be aware of that ahead of time before that child gets there, so they can put them in the right place and be aware of anything they need to be.
Do you think that's going to be a continuing issue for the next several years, just to be sure we get it right?
I think we always need to focus on it as a priority. I mean, we ask our parents to trust the state and trust our local communities to send their kids to us, to not only educate them, but to keep them safe. And I think it's got to maintain it as a priority moving forward, and never take our foot off the gas. And unfortunately, I think there will still continue to be issues, but hopefully we are doing everything we can to keep our kids safe.
What's the current state of prisons in the state?
The prison system in the state of Georgia has, for several years, been on a decline from an infrastructure point of view.
Really?
Safety in the prisons, not only for our inmates, but also for our correctional officers. And I think it's one of the main priorities of the governor this year was looking at our prison systems and addressing some things that we need to look at from an aging infrastructure, and going in and putting some higher security in there to keep gangs from basically running our prisons, and drones that are bringing in contraband and everything. So one of the first ways we've done that is try to help understaffing and raise the pay of our correctional officers to help get higher amount of staffing, so we have a better presence there, and can not only put criminals behind bars, because that's where dangerous criminals need to be. They need to be in our prison system, but we have an obligation to protect not only them, but also our correctional officers who are there doing their duty as well.
So are the prisoners we're housing, are they being convicted more on more violent type crimes?
Well, I think you will see, I hope you would see a lot of your violent repeat offenders in prison, because I think that's where we need to do that.
Yeah.
And then a lot of your smaller offenses sometimes, I think, is not who's in jail, but it's people who repeat and abuse the system. And it might have started off with a small charge, but it continues to be just a history of whether it be violence or drugs or things of that nature. We improved the penalties for fentanyl this year to where you can now be trafficked with fentanyl. I think it's one of the biggest issues we have.
That was its own piece of legislation.
It was,
to do that.
And it took it to 4 grams now as mandatory minimums as that is trafficking. And so we hope to be one of the leaders in the nation with very aggressive laws against people who are bringing poison into our state.
One controversial thing, you voted against taxpayer funding of transgender prison sex changes, correct?
I talked about that I don't think I know how to spend taxpayers' money as well as they do, but I think I speak for most Georgians that they don't want me up there spending their money to fund sex changes on inmates. So you would think that everybody would see it that way, but we actually had the Democrats not only not support that bill, but get up and walk out.
As a brand new legislator, what was your thoughts when you saw that going on?
Well, you see a lot of things for the first time, and to you it's the first time for everything. But actually, I come to learn that was a first in most people's career up there, is to see. Debate is good, and we don't always have to agree, but we're there to do the duty for the people who elected us to go there. And sometimes you sit there and you have to vote no matter what, and let your voice be heard. And so to get up and walk out is one thing, but to get up and walk out on something as simple as taking taxpayer dollars to fund something of that situation was eye-opening for sure.
We're going to take another break. We've got State Representative Jutt Howard, House District 71, in studio. We'll be back with more after this.
The Entrepreneur Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined curriculum-based track to acquire essential knowledge and skills for success in business and leadership. Critical areas include identifying entrepreneurial characteristics, selecting a value position, and business model development. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Consider the Mobius strip. Take a strip of paper, twist it, connect the ends. This connection forms a continuous loop. Seamless, infinite. That's how your healthcare should be too. At Tanner Health, the Mobius is our symbol and our promise, representing our continuum of care and our commitment that the services you need will be here for you always. We're not just changing healthcare, we're redefining it. See more at tanner.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. We're very pleased to have in studio State Representative Jutt Howard, House District 71. I want to, mainly because your relationship with NG Turf and your knowledge of agriculture, I do want to take a moment, because we're going to run out of time, before we know it, to talk about rural Georgia and the importance of agricultural here. Obviously, rural Georgia is the best defense, if you will, for the expansion of Metro Atlanta. So what are we doing in the House, and what's your perspective on encouraging, Georgia, they say, is what, the number one, agriculture is the number one industry in Georgia.
That's right.
If you can kind of expand on that.
Sure. So, I think agriculture is two things. One, it's the number one industry in our state, but two, the overall number one thing I think that's made this country great is its long-term ability to have a cheap, reliable, safe food source. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a national security issue, and one that we've got to stay focused on, not only nationally but at the state level too. And that's our ability to compete in that industry. And as Atlanta expands, we talked earlier about a lot of industries that are coming to our state, and that's great. We're the number one state to do business in, but we've got there on the back of agriculture, and it still plays a key role in what we do every day. So there's a lot of things we're looking at. We passed a lot of great bills this session that help with the ability of a lot of your farms now are becoming larger farms. Small family farms are going away with generational change. So we did some things to improve some CUVA bills to allow farms to continue to expand, and also looking at the infrastructure and the needs in the rural areas of our state, where a lot of the technologies that farmers use now are dependent upon internet and those types of technologies. So making sure we're getting that infrastructure in those areas of the state, I think, is critical.
Your district is probably the prime example of, the encroachment of Metro coming in, particularly Villa Rica. It's growing, the traffic is now becoming very noticeable up there. So how for your district, how do you see that balance, or is there a balance?
Right. So, growth has always been one of those things. When you have great schools, when you have great jobs, you have great health care like we're blessed with in our community, people want to be here. Yeah. And that's a good thing. And I think as long as we continue to bring in good jobs, then that brings in good housing. And that's growth. I don't think you're going to stop, but it needs to just be good planned growth. And as Atlanta moves this way, I think, over the next 6 months to a year, we can continue to evaluate not only the opportunities that we have that will help our county, but also how can we then look at that as what kind of growth do we want to see here long term and over the next 15 or 20 years, and make sure that while we do need good growth and we want people to come in, we'll have ability to sort of measure that and make sure that that's the right kind of growth for our area.
And that kind of growth is mainly, we started out talking about your family, but single family dwellings rather than high-rise apartments. So is there any hope that everybody's going to have, their own property and a house they can, invest in, et cetera?
Sure.
I mean, with some really good-looking sod out front,
That's right. So I'm a pro property rights guy first. Let me start there. That I believe if you have a piece of property and you would like to do something with it, then the government should not interfere in doing that. Unfortunately, we adopted zoning laws a long time ago, so we live in a place to where that is the process in which we live in. So, it really comes down to our local elected officials and the vision that they see that where our community wants to go and what kind of housing and what kind of growth that we have. But I think we're poised to be able to look at the next 15, 20 years, 50 years down the road, and ability to keep our county a large agricultural facility, but we've got a lot of great industry here. The medical industry is fabulous, Southwire, a lot of their other industrial companies, and we have a place for that, and we have a place at times for multifamily. But as long as we're planning and everybody's having a good conversation about that, I think we can continue to grow and continue to make our schools some of the best admired school systems in the state, and that's all through everybody working together. And I'm blessed to enter my life as an elected official, but with a group of not only a local delegation of us that serve at the State House, but our local county governments and city governments have really been open-armed and there to help answer my questions, and I try to serve in the same capacity and help in any way I can.
Very well said in terms of why we need to keep property taxes low so that we can all have that freedom that comes with owning your own property and your own house. So if someone needs to contact you, what's the best way?
Absolutely. So all of my contact information is jutthoward.com. I'm also, like I said, in small family business at NG Turf. So if I can help you with any constituent issue or help make your front yard look better, reach out, give me a call. I'll be glad to help in any way I can.
And everybody's front yard can always look better.
Absolutely. It's probably the most common question I got at the Capitol this year was, what can I do in my yard to help with shade? So,
well, what can you do with shade? I got that. We can talk after the program on that, but I have yet to figure that one out. We can talk about budget, but when it comes to shade, I don't know.
Well, I know a lot about grass and learning a little bit more about budget every day. But, Steve, again, thanks for having me. I've enjoyed being here.
All right, and thank you to State Rep Jutt Howard for House District 71 for coming in and being in studio. We thank our sponsors, Oak Mountain Academy, Tanner Health System. Go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.